General Hana Lee stood at the window of her quarters aboard the transport ship and watched the stars pass by. In a few hours, she would arrive at the Valari homeworld. She had been to many alien planets before, but this was different. This was a peace mission. This was supposed to be the beginning of something good. Her communicator beeped. She pressed the button and heard the voice of her old friend. "Hana, are you awake?" asked General Sora Kim. "I am," Lee replied. "Cannot sleep." "Me neither. I keep thinking about what Admiral Park said before we left." Lee remembered the conversation clearly. Admiral Una Park had called them both to her office on the orbital station above Earth. She had looked at them with worried eyes and told them to be careful. The Valari were not to be trusted, she said. They smiled with their mouths but not with their eyes. But the orders came from the United Nations. Humanity needed allies in the galaxy. The Valari Empire was the most powerful force in the galactic concord. And if Earth wanted to grow stronger, they needed Valari support. So Lee and Kim were sent as representatives of human military strength. "Park worries too much," Lee said, but she did not believe her own words. "Maybe," Kim replied. "Or maybe she sees what we do not want to see." The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and the Valari homeworld appeared before them. It was a massive planet, covered in silver cities that sparkled like jewels. Hundreds of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. Lee felt small looking at it. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 200 years. The Valari had been doing it for 10,000. They landed at the Imperial Palace, a building so large that it could fit entire cities inside. Valari officials greeted them with polite words and cold smiles. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black, and Lee could never tell what they were thinking. "Welcome, honored generals," said the lead official. "Emperor Vorath is eager to meet the finest warriors of Earth." Lee and Kim followed the officials through long hallways decorated with statues and paintings. Everything showed Valari victories. Valari conquering planets. Valari standing over defeated enemies. Lee noticed that there were no images of cooperation or friendship. Only domination. They entered a massive throne room. Thousands of aliens from different species filled the space, all members of the Galactic Concord. At the far end sat Emperor Vorath on a throne made of black metal. He was old for a Valari, his gray skin marked with lines and spots, but his eyes were sharp and cruel. "Generals of Earth," Vorath said, his voice echoing through the room. Lee stepped forward and bowed her head slightly. "We come on behalf of humanity. We wish to discuss our expanded role in the Concord." Yes, Vorath said, waving one of his 4 hands. "Humanity is ambitious. You have been part of the Concord for only 30 years. Yet you already want more responsibility. More power. We want to contribute," Kim said. "Our soldiers fight and die alongside conquered forces. We believe we have earned the right to be heard." The room went quiet. Lee felt the eyes of thousands of aliens on her. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. She realized that Kim's words might have been too strong. Vorath smiled. It was not a good smile. "Earned," he repeated. "Interesting word. Tell me, General Kim, what has humanity earned? You are children in this galaxy. You have barely learned to walk among the stars, and already you demand to run." Lee felt anger rising in her chest, but she controlled it. "We do not demand, Emperor. We ask." "And yet," Vorath said, "asking and demanding sound the same when they come from the mouth of a species that does not know its place." He stood from his throne and walked down the steps toward them. His guards moved with him, surrounding the 2 human generals. "We have been watching humanity," Vorath continued. "You build weapons in secret. You train soldiers in hidden facilities. You smile at us and speak of peace while you prepare for war." Lee's heart began to beat faster. "Those are lies, are they?" Vorath asked. He held up a small device and pressed a button. Holographic images appeared in the air. They showed shipyards, weapons factories, and military bases. Some of them Lee recognized. They were real. You see, Vorath said. We know everything. Humanity plans to betray the Concord, to rise up against your betters, to take what you have not earned. That is not true, Kim shouted. Those facilities are for defense. We have a right to protect ourselves. You have the rights we give you. Vorath said coldly. Nothing more. He turned to face the assembled aliens. Fellow members of the Concord, I present to you evidence of human treachery. These two generals are the leaders of this conspiracy. They came here not for peace, but to spy on us, to learn our weaknesses. Lee looked around desperately. She saw no friendly faces. The other species watched with fear or satisfaction. None would help. This is madness, Lee said. We came here in good faith. We brought only a small security team, as a sign of trust, and that trust was misplaced, Vorath said. Just as ours was misplaced in humanity. He raised his hand, and his guards grabbed Lee and Kim. The two generals fought, but there were too many. They were forced to their knees before the throne. For crimes against the Galactic Concord, Vorath announced, for conspiracy, for espionage, and for plotting rebellion, I sentence these humans to death. Let this be a warning to Earth. Know your place, or be destroyed. Lee looked at Kim. Her friend's eyes were filled with tears, but also with defiance. They had served together for 20 years. They had fought side by side in a dozen battles. Now they would die together. Earth will not forget this, Lee said. You are making a terrible mistake. Vorath laughed. Earth will do nothing. You are weak. You are alone. And soon, you will learn to obey. He gestured to his guards. They raised their weapons, energy rifles that would turn the generals to dust. Humanity will remember our names, Kim said quietly. And they will come for you. The weapons fired. In a flash of light, Generals Hana Lee and Sora Kim were gone. The room erupted in applause from Vorath's supporters. The Emperor smiled and returned to his throne, far away, on Earth. Admiral Una Park was in her office when the broadcast arrived. She watched in silence as her two best friends were murdered. The video played 3 times before she turned it off. Her aide entered the room nervously. Admiral, the Security Council is demanding a response. What should I tell them? Park stood and walked to the window. She looked at the Earth below, blue and green and peaceful. She thought of Lee and Kim. She thought of every human who had ever been told they were not good enough. Tell them, she said slowly, that the Emperor wanted to make an example of us. Tell them he succeeded. And tell them that now, we will make an example of him. She turned to face her aide, and there was something in her eyes that he had never seen before. It was cold and hard and absolutely certain. Humanity is done being patient, Park said. Activate all contingency protocols. Call back every ship. Cancel all joint operations with the Concord. Admiral, the aide said, his voice shaking. That means war. Yes, Park replied. It does. Across the planet, the broadcast played on every screen. Billions of humans watched their generals die. Grief turned to anger. Anger turned to rage. And rage turned to a cold, clear purpose. The Valari Empire had made a choice. They had chosen to kill the daughters of Earth. Now Earth would answer. 3 days after the execution, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting. Every nation on Earth sent their highest leaders. The room was full, but silent. Admiral Una Park stood before them, her face like stone. You have all seen the broadcast, she said. You all know what happened. Generals Lee and Kim were murdered in cold blood. They were killed not because they did anything wrong, but because humanity dared to want something more than slavery. The president of the European Federation raised his hand. Admiral, we must be careful. The Valari fleet outnumbers ours by 10 to 1. If we act rashly, we could be destroyed. Park nodded slowly. You are right. The Valari think they outnumber us 10 to 1. She pressed a button on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing the solar system. But they are wrong. The display zoomed in on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Hidden among the rocks were massive structures, shipyards, weapons factories, training facilities. For the last 50 years, Park explained, Earth has been preparing for this day. We always knew the Concorde could not be trusted. We smiled and played the good allies, but we never stopped building. We never stopped getting ready. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The Prime Minister of Japan stood up. Admiral, are you saying we have a secret military? I am saying we have a real military, Park replied. What we showed the Concorde was a fraction of our true strength. Director Shin, please explain. A middle-aged man with tired eyes stepped forward. Junho Shin was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division. He had spent his entire life building things that could destroy worlds. Over the past 5 decades, Shin said, we have constructed 300 capital ships. Each one is equipped with weapons that the Concorde has never seen. Plasma cannons that can cut through their shields like paper. Missile systems that can track and hit targets across entire solar systems. AI-controlled drone swarms that can overwhelm any defense. He changed the display to show one of the ships. It was massive, black as night, shaped like a blade. We call them the Black Fleet, Shin continued. And they are ready. The leaders of Earth looked at the ship in awe and fear. They had never known such power existed. Admiral Park stepped forward again. We also have something else. Something we hoped we would never need to use. She paused. We have planet killers. Weapons that can crack a world in half. The room went completely silent. I am not here to ask for permission, Park said. I am here to tell you what will happen. In 24 hours, I will send a message to the Valari Empire. I will give them 48 hours to surrender Emperor Vorath for trial. If they refuse, we will go to war, and we will not stop until the Emperor pays for what he did. The President of the American Union stood up. Admiral, this is genocide. If we use planet killers, we are no better than them. I did not say we would use them, Park replied. I said we have them. The Valari will know we have them, and they will understand that we are not afraid to end this war in any way necessary. She looked around the room, meeting every set of eyes. For 30 years, we have bowed our heads. We have accepted being called children. We have let them laugh at us and use us, and throw us away when we were no longer useful. That ends now. Humanity will bow to no one ever again. There was silence. Then, slowly, the leader of the African coalition stood up and began to clap. One by one, others joined. Soon, the entire room was applauding. Park did not smile. She simply nodded and walked out. 24 hours later, her message was broadcast across the galaxy. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vengeance, and spoke calmly. To the Valari Empire and the Galactic Concorde, you have murdered 2 of our finest soldiers. You have called us weak. You have told us to know our place. So let me tell you our place. Our place is wherever we choose to stand. And right now, we choose to stand against you. She held up a small device. You have 48 hours to deliver Emperor Vorath to Earth for trial. If you refuse, we will come for him. And we will not stop until justice is done. You think you know what humans are capable of. You know nothing. But you will learn. The message ended. In the Valari Imperial Palace, Emperor Vorath watched the broadcast with his advisors. When it finished, he laughed. This is their great threat, he said. A woman on a single ship making demands? Humans are even more foolish than I thought. Your Majesty, one advisor said nervously. Our intelligence reports indicate unusual activity in the human solar system. They may have more ships than we knew. It does not matter, Voreth said. Even if they have 100 ships, we have thousands. Begin mobilizing the Imperial fleet. We will crush them so completely that no human will ever dare to speak again. The 48 hours passed. Voreth sent no response, except to move his fleet to attack positions. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Park received the report from Commander Mireille Kang. Kang was young, barely 30, but she was the finest pilot in the fleet. She led the Ghost Squadron, a team of fighters that could appear and disappear like shadows. No response from the Volari, Kang reported. Their fleet is gathering at the border. Park nodded. Then we give them one. She opened a channel to all ships in the Black Fleet. All vessels. This is Admiral Park. You know why we are here. You know what was taken from us. Today, we take it back. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you kill the daughters of Earth. All ships, prepare to jump. 300 ships activated their faster-than-light drives. In perfect formation, they jumped across the galaxy to the Volari border system. They arrived to find 100 Volari warships waiting. The aliens had expected this to be easy. They outnumbered the first wave of human ships, and reinforcements were coming. They were wrong. Commander Kang led the Ghost Squadron in the first attack. Her fighters moved so fast that Volari sensors could barely track them. They struck the enemy command ships first, destroying bridges and communication arrays. The Volari fleet fell into confusion. Then the Black Fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons tore through Volari shields like they were not there. Missiles exploded against hulls, ripping ships apart. The AI drones swarmed over enemy vessels, finding weak points and destroying them from within. The Volari tried to fight back, but their weapons seemed weak and slow compared to the human technology. Their ships, which had dominated the galaxy for millennia, were burning. In 11 minutes, it was over. The 100 Volari warships were gone, destroyed or crippled, floating dead in space. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and watched the debris. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, enemy fleet destroyed. We have lost 2 fighters. No capital ship damage. Park felt nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Only a cold determination. Send a message to the Volari homeworld, she said. Tell them this was their border fleet. Tell them their main fleet is next. And tell Emperor Vorath that we are coming for him. Across the galaxy, every species watched the battle recordings in shock. The Volari had been the most powerful military force in known space, and humans had destroyed their fleet in 11 minutes. The balance of power in the galaxy had just changed. General Do-Hyun Baek, commander of Earth's ground forces, watched the battle from a troop transport. He was an older man, scarred from years of combat. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion, in the Colony Wars, in a dozen peacekeeping missions for the Concord. He knew war better than almost anyone, and he knew this was only the beginning. The Volari will not surrender, he said to his aide. They are too proud. This will be a long war. Then we will fight a long war, the aide replied. Baek nodded. He thought of Generals Lee and Kim. He had known them both. Good soldiers. Good people. Yes, he said. We will fight as long as it takes, and we will win. On Earth, billions watched the news of the victory. They did not celebrate. They simply nodded and went back to their work. There was much to do, ships to build, soldiers to train, a war to win. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war began in fire and blood, and it did not stop. In the first week, Admiral Park's Black Fleet struck 3 more Volari systems. They moved fast, faster than anyone thought possible. The Volari would receive warning of an attack, and before they could respond, human ships were already jumping away, leaving burning ruins behind. Park established simple rules. Military targets were to be destroyed without mercy. Weapons, factories, shipyards, military bases, warships. Nothing was spared, but civilian targets were treated differently. Before each attack on a populated world, Earth broadcast a warning. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Fight, and you will lose. Most chose to surrender. They had seen what human weapons could do. They had watched their mighty warships torn apart like toys. They knew resistance was death. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Fleet Admiral Hyun-Soo Yoon presented the latest intelligence to Admiral Park. Yoon was Park's tactical advisor, a quiet man who saw patterns where others saw chaos. "The Concorde is fracturing," he reported. 3 species have declared neutrality. The Kentari and the Morath have withdrawn their fleets entirely. 2 others have contacted us secretly. They want to share information on Valari positions. Park studied the star map in front of her. Red markers showed Valari-controlled systems. Green markers showed human advances. In just 2 weeks, the green had spread across a quarter of Valari space. "Why are they helping us?" she asked. "Because they hate the Valari more than they fear us," Yoon replied. "The Valari have dominated the Concorde for 3,000 years. They have treated every other species as servants. Now those servants see a chance to be free." Park nodded slowly. "Accept their help, but do not trust them completely. People who betray once will betray again." On the ground, General Do-hyun Baek led the assault on Vorax Prime, the Valari's main military stronghold. It was a fortress world, covered in defensive installations, and home to 4 million Valari soldiers. Taking it would break the back of Valari military power. Baek stood in the command center of his landing ship, watching the planet grow larger through the view screen. Around him, thousands of transport ships carried 200,000 human soldiers. It was the largest ground invasion in human history. "Commander Kang reports orbital defenses are down," his communications officer announced. "Ghost Squadron has cleared the way." "Ghost Squadron," Baek smiled grimly. "Then let us introduce ourselves. All units, begin landing operations." The transports descended through fire. Valari ground batteries shot at them, but most were destroyed by covering fire from the Black Fleet above. The ships landed hard, ramps dropped, and human soldiers poured out onto alien soil. The Valari were waiting for them. They were bigger than humans, stronger, with 4 arms that could fire weapons and swing blades at the same time. In close combat, a single Valari was worth 3 humans. But humans did not fight in close combat. They fought with drones, with artillery, with coordinated strikes that hit enemies from directions they never expected. They used the terrain, the buildings, the shadows. They moved like water, flowing around Valari's strong points and cutting them off from behind. Baek commanded from a mobile headquarters, watching the battle unfold on holographic displays. He saw a Valari counterattack forming on the eastern front and sent drone swarms to break it up. He saw human units pinned down by heavy fire and called in orbital strikes to eliminate the guns. "General," one of his officers said, "the Valari commander is requesting a meeting. He says he wants to discuss terms." "Terms?" Baek raised an eyebrow. "We are winning. What terms does he think he can offer?" "He says he will surrender the planet if we allow his soldiers to leave with their weapons and honor." Baek thought about it. He could accept the offer and save thousands of lives, both human and Valari. It would be the practical thing to do. 43. Narration, but he thought about Generals Lee and Kim. He thought about how they had been murdered while trying to negotiate in good faith. He thought about Valari honor. "Tell him no," Baek said. "Tell him his soldiers will surrender unconditionally, or they will die. Those are the only terms." The battle continued. It lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 4 million Valari soldiers were dead or captured. Human losses were 12,000. It was a victory that shocked the galaxy. But the war was not over. Emperor Vorath still lived, and he was getting desperate. In the Imperial Palace, Vorath met with his remaining admirals. Their faces were grim. Half of the Imperial fleet was gone. A third of Velari territory was under human occupation, or had surrendered. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was falling apart. "We must strike at their heart," Vorath said. "If we destroy Earth, the humans will lose their will to fight." One admiral stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we have assembled 5,000 ships. It is every vessel we have left. If we send them all against Earth and fail, we will have nothing." "We will not fail," Vorath insisted. "Humans are strong in attack, but they cannot have enough ships to defend their homeworld. We will overwhelm them with numbers." The admirals looked at each other. They knew this plan was born of desperation, not strategy. But Vorath was the Emperor. They could not refuse. "It will be done," the lead admiral said. "We will jump to the human solar system within 3 days." On Earth, Intelligence Chief Sujin Lim intercepted the Velari communications. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had built her career on knowing things others wanted to keep hidden. Now, she knew the biggest secret of all. She contacted Admiral Park immediately. "They are coming," Lim reported. 5,000 ships. It is their entire remaining fleet. They will be here in 3 days. Park received the news calmly. She had expected this. Vorath was a cornered animal, and cornered animals attacked. 3 days, she said. That is enough time. Recall all ships to the solar system. Activate the full defense grid, and contact Director Shin. Tell him to prepare the special weapons. "The planet killers?" Yoon asked. "No," Park replied. "Something else. Something that will make sure this attack is their last." The 3 days passed quickly. Earth prepared. Ships returned from across the galaxy. The orbital defense grid came online, a network of thousands of automated weapons, platforms, minefields, and sensor arrays that surrounded the solar system like a shell. Then the Velari arrived. 5,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel just beyond the orbit of Neptune. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. The ships spread out in attack formation, filling the view screens of every human vessel. Emperor Vorath broadcast a message from his command ship. "Humans, you have fought well, but now you will see the true power of the Velari Empire. Surrender Admiral Park to us for execution, and we will spare your planet. Refuse, and we will burn your world to ash. You have 1 hour." On the Vengeance, Park watched the message with her officers. When it ended, she turned to them. "Any thoughts?" Commander Kang stepped forward. 5,000 ships is a lot. Even with our defenses, this will be hard. "Hard," Park agreed, "but not impossible." She looked at the tactical display. They are bunched together. They expect to overwhelm us with one massive charge. That is a mistake. She opened a channel to the defense grid. "All stations, this is Admiral Park. You see what is coming. You know what they did. Today we end this. Today we show them what it means to threaten Earth. All stations, open fire." The battle for the solar system began. Human weapons platforms launched millions of missiles. The Black Fleet advanced in precise formations, plasma cannons blazing. Minefields detonated among the Velari ships, tearing holes in their lines. The Velari fired back. They had numbers on their side, and they used them. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles filled space. Human ships began to take damage. Some were destroyed, but the humans did not stop. They did not slow down. They fought with a fury that the Velari had never seen. The battle lasted 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting, of ships burning and crews dying, of attacks and counterattacks, and desperate maneuvers. The solar system became a graveyard of wreckage. On the 3rd day, the Velari broke. Their remaining ships turned and fled, jumping away in disorder. They left behind 80% of their fleet, destroyed or crippled. Earth had lost 12 ships. 12 out of 300. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, looking at the debris that filled space around her. Millions of Valari had died. Thousands of humans had died. "We have won," Yoon said quietly. Park shook her head. "We have won a battle. The war ends when I have Vorath in chains." She turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to all human forces. The defense of Earth is complete. Now, we hunt the Emperor." Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Valari attack on Earth had failed. Their fleet was destroyed. Their empire was falling, and humanity was coming for their Emperor. Emperor Vorath fled. When his fleet was destroyed at Earth, he did not stay to rally his people. He did not broadcast messages of defiance. He simply took his personal ship and ran, leaving his empire to burn behind him. Admiral Park learned of his escape within hours. Intelligence Chief Sujin Lim had agents everywhere, and they reported that the Emperor's ship had jumped to a secret location known only to his inner circle. "He has safe houses across the galaxy," Lim reported to Park in a private briefing. "Hidden stations, remote planets, places where he kept treasures and secrets. He will move between them, trying to stay ahead of us." Park looked at the star map. Thousands of systems, millions of places to hide. Finding one man in all of that should have been impossible. "Then we checked them all," Park said. She assembled a task force of her best ships and her best people. Captain Tae-ho Choi commanded one of the destroyers. He had served under General Lee for 10 years before her death, and he carried her memory like a wound that would not heal. "We will find him," Choi said to his crew. "We will find him and bring him back to answer for what he did. I swear it on the general's name." Commander Mireille Kang led the fighter support. Her Ghost Squadron had become famous across the galaxy. They had destroyed more enemy ships than any other unit, and they had never lost an engagement. But Kang was worried. She had seen the look in Admiral Park's eyes lately, the cold fire that never went out. She had seen the obsession growing. The hunt began. They struck the first safe house within a week. It was a small station hidden in an asteroid field, guarded by 50 loyal Valari soldiers. The task force surrounded it and demanded surrender. The guards refused. The battle lasted 10 minutes. When it was over, the station was a wreck and all 50 guards were dead. But Vorath was not there. He had left only hours before. "He knew we were coming," Choi reported to Park. "Someone warned him." Park's jaw tightened. "Then we move faster." They hit the second safe house 3 days later. Again, Vorath had escaped just before they arrived. And the third. And the fourth. Each time, they found evidence that the Emperor had been there. Personal items, records, messages. But never Vorath himself. Park began sleeping less. She spent hours in her quarters, studying star maps, trying to predict where Vorath would go next. She stopped eating with her officers. She stopped talking about anything except the mission. Commander Kang noticed. One evening, she came to Park's quarters and found the Admiral staring at a holographic image of Generals Lee and Kim. "Admiral," Kang said softly, "you need to rest." Park did not look away from the image. "I will rest when he is captured. And if that takes years," Park finally turned. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Then, I will not sleep for years." They trusted me, Kang. Lee and Kim trusted me to protect them, and I sent them to their deaths. I cannot rest until I have made that right. Kang sat down across from her. General Lee would not want this. She would want you to lead, not to destroy yourself. General Lee is dead, Park replied coldly. She does not want anything anymore. Kang felt a chill. The Admiral she knew was disappearing, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. But she did not give up. "We will find him," Kang said. "We will bring him to justice. But we need you whole. When that happens, we need our Admiral, not a ghost." Park was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are right," she admitted. I have been losing myself. But I cannot stop. Not until this is done. Then let us help you, Kang said. Park looked at her for a long time. Then, for the first time in weeks, she almost smiled. Very well. We share the burden. The hunt continued. But now it was different. Park let her officers take more responsibility. She slept a little more, ate a little more. The fire in her eyes did not go out. But it became something she controlled, instead of something that controlled her. And then the breakthrough came. One of Vorath's own advisors contacted them. His name was Counselor Torak, and he had served the Emperor for 40 years. But he had been in the throne room when Li and Kim were executed. He had seen the murder of 2 soldiers who had come in peace. I cannot serve him anymore, Torak told Lim in a secret communication. What he did was evil. I will tell you where he is, but you must promise me something. I will tell you where he tell you need. Continture. I will tell you where he tell. What? Lim asked. Promise me that he will face trial. Real justice. Not just revenge. Lim looked at Park, who was listening to the conversation. The Admiral nodded once. We promise, Lim said. Torak gave them the coordinates. Vorath was hiding in an ancient space station in a dead system, a place so old that it did not appear on any modern maps. He had 50 guards left. 50 soldiers who were still loyal to a fallen emperor. The task force jumped to the system immediately. They found the station floating in darkness, its lights dim, its power almost gone. It looked like a tomb. Scan for life signs, Park ordered. 53 life forms, the tactical officer reported. All in the central section. Park stood. I am leading the boarding party. Choi stepped forward. Admiral, that is not wise. Let me go. No. Park's voice allowed no argument. This is my responsibility. I will finish it myself. She took a team of 20 soldiers and boarded the station through an airlock. The corridors were dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered. The place smelled of decay. They moved through the station carefully, clearing rooms one by one. They found guards hiding in corners, behind doors, in shadows. Most of them fought. All of them died. Finally, they reached the command center. The door was sealed. Park placed a charge on it and blew it open. Inside, she found Emperor Forath. He was sitting in a chair in the middle of the room, surrounded by the bodies of his last guards. They had killed themselves rather than be captured. Vorath had not had the courage to join them. He looked old. Weak. His gray skin was pale and spotted. His 4 hands trembled. This was the creature that had ruled the galaxy. This was the monster that had murdered her friends. Admiral Park, Vorath said. His voice was thin and broken. I knew you would come. Park walked toward him slowly. Her soldiers spread out behind her, weapons raised. Stand up, she ordered. Vorath did not move. Will you kill me? Execute me the way I executed your generals? Park stopped in front of him. She looked down at him with disgust. No, she said. I will not give you that honor. You will stand trial. You will face justice. And then you will spend the rest of your life in a cell, watching everything you built be torn down. That is your punishment. Vorath's eyes widened. No. No. That is worse than death. Just kill me. Please. Please. Park leaned closer. General Li said, please, when your guards grabbed her. General Kim begged you to see reason. Did you listen? Did you show mercy? Vorath was silent. Park straightened. I thought not. She gestured to her soldiers. Take him. They grabbed the Emperor and dragged him to his feet. He did not resist. He was too broken to resist. As they led him out of the command center, Vorath spoke one more time. You think you have won, he said. But you have only created a new empire. In 100 years, humanity will be just like us. You will dominate and control and execute anyone who threatens you. It is the way of the galaxy. Park did not look back. No, she said. It was the way of the Valari. And the Valari are finished. They brought Emperor Vorath back to Earth in chains. The galaxy watched. The war was over. But Park knew that the hardest part was still to come. Winning a war was one thing. Building a peace was something else entirely. She looked at the Earth growing larger through the view screen. Her home, her people. They had done what they set out to do. They had avenged their generals. They had proven that humanity would not be pushed down. Now they had to prove that they deserved to lead. The trial of Emperor Vorath began on a cold morning in Geneva, in a building that had once housed the old United Nations. Now it held a new court, a joint tribunal of humans and aliens who had come together to judge the crimes of the Valari Empire. Representatives from 12 species filled the gallery. Some had been members of the Concord. Others had been conquered by the Valari long ago, and were only now emerging from the shadows. All of them wanted to see justice done. Admiral Una Park sat in the front row, wearing her formal uniform. Beside her were Captain Taeho Choi and Commander Mireille Kang. They had been with her from the beginning. They would be with her at the end. Emperor Vorath was brought in wearing simple gray clothes. No crown, no symbols of power. He was just an old alien now, broken and alone. He was placed in a chair in the center of the room, facing the judges. The chief prosecutor was Ambassador Eunji Huang, who had spent months gathering evidence and testimony. She stood before the tribunal and spoke clearly. Emperor Vorath is charged with crimes against sentient life, she said. Specifically, the unlawful execution of General Hana Lee and General Sora Kim of Earth's military forces. Additionally, he is charged with conspiracy to commit genocide against the human species, aggression against member worlds of the Galactic Concord, and systematic oppression of subject peoples over a period of 3,000 years. The list went on. It took an hour just to read all the charges. Vorath sat through it without expression. When Huang finished, the chief judge asked him if he had anything to say. Vorath stood slowly. He looked around the room at all the faces watching him. Human faces. Alien faces. The faces of those he had ruled and those he had tried to destroy. Everything I did, he said, I did for the stability of the galaxy. Humans were a threat. They grew too fast. They wanted too much. If I had not acted, they would have upset the balance of power. They would have caused wars and chaos. He turned to look directly at Park. I was trying to prevent what happened. I was trying to keep the peace. And you proved me right. You destroyed my empire. You killed millions of my people. You burned my worlds. Was that justice? Or was that revenge? Park met his gaze without blinking. Vorath continued. In 100 years, you will understand. You will face a species that grows too fast, that wants too much. And you will do exactly what I did. You will try to stop them before they become a threat. And you will tell yourselves it was necessary. You will tell yourselves it was right. Wud. 47. Of Newsday. 47. He sat down. The room was silent. Then Park stood. She had not planned to speak, but she could not let his words go unanswered. You are wrong, she said. You were wrong then, and you are wrong now. She stepped forward, facing him across the court. General Lee and General Kim came to you in peace. They came with open hands, asking for partnership. They were not a threat. They were an opportunity. And you killed them because you were afraid. Because you could not imagine a galaxy where humans were equals instead of servants. Her voice grew stronger. Yes, we destroyed your empire. Yes, we killed your people. That was war. You started it when you murdered our generals. We finished it. But we did not commit genocide. We did not burn civilians. We gave every world a chance to surrender. And we treated prisoners with dignity. That is the difference between us. She pointed at him. You ruled through fear. We will lead through example. You crushed anyone who challenged you. We will lift up everyone who joins us. And in 100 years, when we face a species that grows too fast, we will not kill them. We will remember what you did to us. We will remember how it felt. And we will offer them the partnership that you denied us. She stepped back. That is your answer, Emperor. That is why you were wrong. The room erupted in applause. Aliens and humans alike stood and cheered. Even some of the Velari observers nodded their heads. Vorath said nothing. He just stared at her with something in his eyes that might have been hate or might have been understanding. Park did not care which. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Witness after witness testified about Velari crimes. Generals who had been forced to fight unjust wars. Scientists who had seen their research stolen. Citizens who had watched their families taken away and never seen again. In the end, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. The sentence was life imprisonment. Vorath would spend his remaining years in a facility on a remote moon. Watched constantly. Never allowed to leave. He would have a window that looked out at the stars. He would be able to see the galaxy that he had once ruled, and he would know that it was building something better without him. When the sentence was read, Vorath closed his eyes. Park thought she saw a tear on his gray cheek, but she might have imagined it. 1 month later, Earth built a memorial. It was placed in orbit around the moon, a massive structure of white stone and black metal. 2 statues stood at its center, 30 meters tall. General Hana Lee and General Sora Kim, in their military uniforms, looking out at the stars. Around the statues were walls covered with names. Every human who had died in the war. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, medics. 12,000 names in all. Commander Mireille Kang gave the dedication speech. She stood before the memorial, facing thousands of people who had gathered to remember. We are here to honor those who gave everything, she said. They did not die for revenge. They did not die for conquest. They died so that humanity would never again be told to know its place. They died so that we could stand as equals in the galaxy. She looked at the statues of Lee and Kim. General Lee once told me that the measure of a soldier is not how many battles they win, but how many they prevent. She spent her career trying to build peace. She died trying to build peace. We owe it to her memory to succeed where she could not. She turned back to the crowd. The war is over. But our work is not. We must build a new Concord, one based on partnership instead of domination. We must show the galaxy that power does not have to mean cruelty. We must be the example that proves Emperor Vorath wrong. She raised her hand in salute. For Lee and Kim. For Earth. For all of us. The crowd saluted back. In the weeks that followed, Ambassador Huang led negotiations to create a new galactic alliance. It would have no single ruler. Instead, all member species would have an equal voice. Disputes would be settled through discussion, not force. Aggression would be met with united response. It was not perfect. Some species refused to join. Some old hatreds could not be erased. But it was a start. Admiral Park was offered the position of Supreme Commander of the new alliance's military. She would have more power than any human in history. She would lead fleets and armies that could shape the destiny of the galaxy. She refused. I have had enough of war, she told the council. I became a soldier to protect my people, not to rule the galaxy. Give the position to someone younger. Someone who did not spend the last year burning with revenge. She recommended Captain Choi for the position. He had grown during the war. He had learned command, and strategy, and wisdom. He would lead well. Choi accepted. And Park retired. She went back to Earth, to a small house in the mountains of Korea. She spent her days reading and gardening and watching the sky. Sometimes former soldiers would visit her, and she would talk with them about the old days. But mostly, she was alone. And she was content. 10 years after the war ended, Mireille Kang came to visit her old admiral. Kang was a general now. commanding one of the new Alliance's fleets. She had responsibilities and worries that never seemed to end. She found Park sitting on her porch, drinking tea and watching the sunset. "Admiral," Kang said. "It is good to see you," Park smiled. "I am not an admiral anymore. Just an old woman, enjoying her peace." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. Tell me about the galaxy." Kang sat and talked. She spoke about new discoveries, new alliances, new challenges. The galaxy was changing, growing, becoming something that no one could have imagined a decade before. "And the Valari?" Park asked. "They are rebuilding. Slowly. Some of them still hate us. But many have joined the Alliance. They are learning that there are other ways to be strong." Park nodded. "Good. That is good." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars come out. "Admiral," Kang said finally, "do you think it was worth it? Everything we did? Everything we lost?" Park thought about the question. She thought about Lee and Kim. She thought about the 12,000 names on the memorial. She thought about Emperor Vorath, sitting alone in his cell, watching the galaxy he had lost. "I do not know if it was worth it," she said honestly. "I know that we did what we had to do. I know that we are building something better. And I know that Lee and Kim would be proud of what we have become." She looked at Kang. "That is enough for me." Somewhere in the galaxy, an alien child asked their parent a question. "Why are humans so respected?" the child asked. "Why does everyone listen to them?" The parent thought about how to answer. It was a complicated question with a complicated history. "Because," the parent said finally, "when the galaxy tried to break them, they refused to break. When the galaxy killed their daughters, they fought back with everything they had. And when they won, they did not become tyrants. They became partners." The child considered this. "Were they always like that?" "No," the parent said. "They learned. They suffered. They grew." The parent looked at their child. "That is what makes them strong. Not their weapons or their ships. Their ability to become better than they were." The child nodded slowly. Far away, on a small planet called Earth, an old woman sat on her porch and watched the stars. She had done terrible things and great things. She had lost friends and won wars. She had been consumed by revenge and had found her way back to peace. Now she was just Una Park. No title, no rank, just a human who had lived long enough to see her people rise. And that, she thought, was enough. The stars shone down on her, cold and eternal. And somewhere among them, the galaxy kept turning, kept changing, kept growing. Because of what humanity had done, because of what they had become, because they had refused to know their place,